Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Got a new one for 2019 here. This is the IZIP E3 Loma, and it's a unique bike in part because it comes in two sizes, and the smaller of the two has 26-inch wheels, whereas the larger has 28. So they've really gone to great lengths to make this thing a little bit more efficient, a little bit more elevated, and maybe a little bit smoother because of that lower attack angle if you do get the larger frame. It might just fit your body a bit better. That's something that I have seen before, but it's sort of rare. Comes in two colors. This is the satin black, and it's got these like neon blue and yellow accents and stuff. And it's really interesting, like rack clip on the back. And it also comes in this kind of a creamy green, maybe a mint color. And I like it on this one. It actually has reflective stickers here. So that gray, that's actually reflective. And you can see that continued through the tires. So those have reflective sidewalls. I don't think they have puncture resistant lining. But you know, you take what you get. And in this case, we've also got integrated lights. So safety is a big feature for me, something I'm always thinking about, especially on like an urban bike, something that you might be cruising around the neighborhoods with or possibly commuting to work. This rack is interesting, but it's sort of puzzling to me. I have seen these like cloth panniers that kind of slide back and hang over on the sides, but you'll notice that there aren't any pannier blockers. So if you're turning, it's possible that the bags could bump into these spokes back here. That's something I'd think about. Also, it doesn't have standard gauge tubing up here, so there are some panniers that kind of clip on, and I guess that wouldn't work here. Trunk bags, I'm trying to think of how if that would sit on top and how it would secure. In many ways, this is unique and it seems well executed, but I don't know if it's the most versatile or utilitarian design. Also, I did take the battery off earlier, and I wanted to show you that, but I forgot the keys. I am sorry. There's the keyed port. Here is the charging port, and in order to get this thing off, it was kind of tough. It took me a while to figure out there's like this sliding piece right here. See how that slides forward and then this pops up? That unlocks the battery, and then there's a handle underneath and you can just slide it on out like that. So keep that in mind if you're trying to figure this out and you're trying to force it and you think maybe it's just stuck on there. That is not the case. There's a little latch. It's a 7-pound battery pack, which is, a little bit heavier. It's rear rack battery, so it's towards the back of the bike. Same thing with the hub motor, although the hub motor is only like 4.5 pounds. This thing is very efficient, 250 watt nominally rated. This is the R15. It's a new motor for me. It's something that I haven't really seen on other bikes. TranzX makes it, and they also have a mid-drive that they make, the M16, which I've reviewed on some of the other IZIP bikes. Okay, these are all part of the Excel group, the same company that does Raleigh, LaPierre, and High Bike. So depending on where you're at, IZIP is definitely the more value-oriented brand. They do sell this online, and they'll ship it to you direct. The price point is $16.99, which for a bike with fenders, with lights, with a nice wave, like step-through design, something that's so approachable like this, with these strong gussets trying to reinforce the frame and reduce frame flex, it actually handles pretty well. But the trade-off for me is more about sort of comfort and power. You're not getting a ton of torque here. I think this is like 45 Newton meters. So some of the other bikes are like 60 or even more. Hub motors tend to be kind of zippy. This one's soft and gentle. There is a throttle operation mode, and it just, you have to be going about 6 miles per hour before that even kicks in. And it's gentle. This bike is not one that would necessarily carry you right up a hill. But with all those features and everything, it's about 55 pounds. So there are definitely bikes that weigh a whole lot more that feel more powerful. So I would be weighing price and then how much power you need. I do want to show you down here at the bottom bracket. See those little magnets? There's a disc. That's called a cadence sensor, and it has 12 magnets, so it's fairly responsive. It does have a plastic chain guide, so that kind of surrounds the chain and keeps it from dropping. And then there's a plastic chain cover, so you're not going to get your pants snagged up or dirty. They've got a kickstand, but I don't love where they've put it. I usually prefer back here, and that's because you can get pedal lock, just like that. Oh boy. And then the bike's taken off on us here. So imagine you're in your garage, and the bike is parked up like this, maybe between your cars or something like that, and then you want to take it out of the garage. You try to back it up. see the pedal like runs into the kickstand, and you can't. You kind of have to move it forward like this and stow that kickstand. There we go. Now we can back it up, right? See how the pedals move backwards? That's why I call this out frequently. I also did not see bottle cage bosses on this, and since this rack is sort of funky, I'm not sure, you know, if they would really work there. I would probably be looking for one of those clamp-on cup holders for up here. And I do like the bars. See how they're kind of like riser bars? They sweep back to meet you. They've got these ergonomic grips, non-locking, so they could twist a little bit. Again, that's sort of a cheaper part. And then we've got this Shimano, it's like an SIS Index tourney thumb shifter versus like little trigger shifters down here. And I see this all the time on electric bikes that have throttles, and it's because, see how the housing kind of drops down and it creates space right there? You really can't have that and trigger shifters because they would collide. There just isn't enough room. So I understand it. You know, you've got 7 gears up here. You can still shift. It's just, it requires you to kind of put your thumb way up high like that. It's not as reachable or quick as some of the other shifting hardware that I've seen. And then back here, we've got the Shimano tourney, very basic entry-level derailleur. This is 14 to 28 tooth cassette, not a huge range. It's nice to have those steps, those 7 steps, better than a single speed in terms of gearing and, you know, different comfort levels of pedaling quickly versus slowly. It gives you some choices, but it's not like a mountain bike that's going to make it really easy to climb. They don't have that really big sprocket in the back. So that's something that, you know, maybe a missed opportunity a little bit, but it's also a compromise to keep the price low. You can see there's these little black dots here. That's from the chain actually making contact with that right chainstay, and I don't see a plastic sticker or a slap guard built onto there. If you buy this bike, you could get a clear piece of like boxing tape and you could put it on there yourself. That'd be a very cost-effective solution to keep your paint in decent shape. But these are aluminum alloy frames. I don't think they're gonna rust or anything. But let's imagine that you get the black frame. Underneath this black paint is aluminum alloy. And if this paint starts to chip off, you're gonna see silver marks. And it's just kind of tacky. It's, you know, I take pretty good care of my stuff. So when I see stuff like this, I'm thinking about how to be proactive and take good care of it. The braking system here, these are like linear pull rim brakes. They give you good mechanical advantage, good heat dissipation. They might get a little bit like dirtier and stuff than disc brakes. But if you're parking at a rack, sometimes the bar racks, they come up like high and they can kind of bump and even bend disc brakes. So this is a solution that you see a lot in Europe where people commute by bike, they're at a crowded rack and the brakes are designed to be kind of out of the way. But they're still mechanical, they aren't hydraulic, which means you need a little bit more hand force or effort to get them to function properly. Okay, especially the rear brake, because that cable has to go all the way back there. It's not real close like this one. I like that some of the cabling is internally routed, and we can see there's a little grommet there that came loose. It's a fairly handsome bike, you know, the headlight points where you steer, right? They've done, you know, a lot right here, but there are some of those trade-offs trying to keep that price low. Here's the motor power cable coming on the left-hand side. It's nice that it's not sticking really far out. Sometimes I see motor power cables that they're on the drivetrain side and you've got all these cables and stuff and they stick way out, and it's sort of a bit of a delicate position to be in. So in this case, it's tucked in, it's on the left-hand side of the bike. There we go, yeah, and you can see the motor. So it's, again, cadence sensor, 12 magnets. The motor just sort of switches on or off. It initiates pretty smoothly. It's a little bit more gentle. That's how I'd describe it. Plastic fenders, and they are not connected to the rack. So it could, you know, it might rattle around a little bit more. I like that it's not one of those like adjustable ones where the rods stick out and you have to kind of dial it in. It seems like these are set up pretty well and they match, they look decent. You know, it's not paint matched, but it is matching some of the other black hardware, including the hubs, the spokes, and then those rims with the machined sidewalls there. I think one of the big takeaways for me in terms of like the ride feel on this bike is that, you know, these are 28 by 1 5/8 inches. Okay, so 1.625. It's not super high volume, right? It's not quite as wide, which would bring stability, a little bit less efficiency, but some stability and comfort. There's no suspension, right? It's just like a rigid fork up here, chromoly, so a little bit of vibration dampening. and then you've got a rigid seat post. That's the one area where you could make some adjustments. This is 31.6 millimeters. You could get a suspension seat post and add a little bit of comfort. The saddle, it's not like a super wide comfort saddle. It's a little bit more active, but it is color matched to the frame, which is kind of fun. And then those swept back bars and everything. It's like they're trying to get you upright, but they're trying to be efficient too, and they're sort of blending two philosophies, I guess is how I think about it. And for me personally, with some back and neck sensitivity, I lean more towards comfort. I don't mind, especially with an electric bike where I have assist, I have a battery, I don't mind being a little less efficient because that motor and that battery are going to help me. And this is a 36 volt 11 amp hour battery pack, 396 watt hours. Being able to take that off and remove those 7 pounds before you lift the bike, or maybe you have to leave the bike outside parked at a rack because you don't have room inside. Try to store this in a cool, dry location and try to top it off every once in a while. If you know you're not going to be riding the bike, I recommend storing it at about half full. And this is what the charger looks like. Puts out 2 amps, which is kind of average. Weighs about 1.8 pounds. And I believe, I actually don't think this is the exact right charger, but I believe it's just like this. And I think it has a metal end point, which is a little bit more durable. So it's bigger than average. It's kind of slow compared to some of the newer chargers that are like 4 amp or whatever. But when you're looking at a roughly 400 watt hour battery pack, totally gets the job done, and it's part of that $16.99 price point. So I hope that gives you some good information about this bike if you're considering making a purchase. Alloy pedals that are a little bit tougher with rubber tread. I'm going to jump into the display panel. So right now it's actually already on. There's like this power button right here, and let's see if I can hold it for a little while. If it turns off, there we go. Okay, so let's pretend you haven't ridden the bike for a while. You might need to activate the battery pack, which is, there's a power button back here and kind of a little 5-tick readout for charge capacity, 20% steps there. Once that's done, the display would be active. And again, I think it kind of goes into a sleep mode. So if you ever feel like, why isn't my bike turning on? It's because you might have to go back here and re-engage the battery. Okay, so we turn it on. It says 0, and that's because we aren't moving. So it's like 0 miles per hour. And we got these tick marks here. 4 of them are lit, but there's 5. So they kind of match the battery. 20% steps, not super precise, but better than some. And then we click the power button. It says 4. That's where in the highest level of assist, level 4. You can arrow down all the way to 1 or even 0. And now you're getting no assist. 1 is the lowest, it's going to be the most efficient, and so on. So on the highest level of assist, if I press the power button one more time, that's range. So it's dynamically saying, we think you can go about 17 miles on assist level 4. I'm going to arrow down to 1 and wait just a couple seconds. And now it's estimating 45 miles. So there's pretty good range here, especially with the efficiency of the wheels and everything. This bike can really go. Got a little bell. I think that's kind of it, besides the lights. If I hold the down arrow for just a second there, I think that activates the lights. You can see there's a couple LEDs in the rear, and then got kind of a cut and a down aiming headlight. A little bit adjustable. Be careful because those are the leads. That's if those get unplugged because you're turning and they're sort of bumping into that head tube or something, it could come unplugged. Just try to plug them back in and be careful with it. It's a little bit more delicate. But again, it's high enough that it's not going to get blocked by that fender. It kind of points where you steer. So they're getting the job done. They're checking the boxes. I think there's room for improvement on this bike in many ways. But if you like the way it looks and you're looking for something that's easy to step through just like that, it could be a good option. You know, and this is from one of the bigger companies. They do have some dealers. Maybe you could find this out in the wild and give it a test ride. So I'm pedaling along right now. I'm in the highest level of assist on about 7 or 8 miles per hour there. Really quiet, it's just super quiet. And I don't have to push hardly at all once the bike is moving, because this is using that cadence sensor. So it's just listening for whether or not I'm pedaling. So I'll just pedal a little bit more. There we go, it just gently eases in. It's kind of satisfying, but I find myself standing up whenever I go over a bump because it's, oh boy, trying to do the no hands, but we don't want to crash. Yeah, it's it's tracking pretty well, but the narrower tires, I definitely feel the vibration going on. I'm a lightweight rider at about 135 pounds, so I might be lowering the air pressure a little bit in these tires to be more comfortable. I definitely feel it, like the saddle, the seat post suspension is another area I'd be considering. We're spending a lot of time like working with the techs and stuff here today, trying to get these bikes set up just right for you guys and make sure that they're performing correctly. And they did some firmware updates and stuff. I often get to look at these bikes before they've seen a lot of ride time. So there we go. We booted it up. We're on assist level 4. Let's try it again. Okay, I'm going 7 miles per hour, 6. Let's go a little bit slower and see if, so the throttle isn't working. Okay, now we're up to 6. There we go. Okay, it took a second. I pedaled another stroke or two, and now it's working. So this is throttle mode. It's enough to get going. You know, 12, 13 miles per hour here. Slowly gaining speed. Okay guys, we got a 42 tooth chain ring with that nice plastic guide and this smoked clear plastic chain cover. And that's great on a step through, because if you're pedaling, you have a dress on or pants, you don't want those to get in there on the chain and maybe get greasy. 14 to 28 teeth back here, pretty narrow range. I'm used to seeing like 11 to 32 or 11 to 42 or something like that. And I don't want to, you know, be too critical here, because for just cruising around town with that lightweight, efficient motor, it's better than a single speed. I would have liked to seen a slap guard or something there. Up to 45 Newton meters of torque, relatively lightweight motor. They only specify the nominal rating, which is 250. I'm guessing that it peaks maybe at 400 or something like that, but I can't say for sure. It's definitely on the efficient side. And it's called the R15. It's a TranzX motor. Curry, IZIP, the Excel Group, they use some of these TranzX motors and drive systems, and they may be kind of related. I haven't really seen them on a lot of other bikes, and this is the first time I've seen this particular motor. So let's give it a go. I'm going to pedal quietly and let you listen to the motor in the highest level of assist. Cool. The brakes are doing a great job. I shifted into the highest gear, that 14-tooth sprocket in the rear, and I could hear the chain, you know, kind of tapping into the right chainstay a little bit. So that's what I'm talking about. If you add that piece of tape or whatever, not the end of the world. The bike's not going to rust or anything, at least the frame, because it's aluminum alloy, but that fork is steel. So try to keep that one in good shape. You know, there we go. I've done my best to be thorough on this bike, give you all the details, but I welcome your feedback too. I feel like there's so many options these days with electric bikes to find something that fits your lifestyle and maybe just your style preferences, your color preferences. And this one's pretty affordable, makes it easy to get into. For the full written review, I'll see you guys back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Have fun out there, ride safe.